I think it's really important for women to have a voice and to speak up, because the world that we're in right now is becoming more and more digital. The fact of the matter is that a lot of people building these systems are men, and they're making choices about the world. And so I encourage women, if you have any interest in technology and AI, is to get involved so that we can make it more of a fulsome and inclusive system. It's deeply important.
Hello, welcome to Women Awakening. I'm your host, Cynthia James. And what I want you to know is that this is a space where extraordinary women from around the globe step forward. And they step forward to share their wisdom, their courage, their acts of courage, their dedication to uplifting the well-being of women everywhere. And so I personally work with leaders and teams and train coaches in my emotional integration techniques. And I support individuals who are ready to up-level and thrive and live their most authentic lives. And so there's a lot more programs coming in 2026, and I'll share those with you at the end of the show. This is what I want you to know. I believe we're living in a time of profound emergence where women's voices, their visions, their leadership, their skills, their gifts are rising in powerful ways. So I'm deeply grateful to be a conduit, introducing you to these remarkable change makers and their stories of transformation, resilience, and impact. You can find Women Awakening with Cynthia James on all the podcast platforms and on video on YouTube. Please share the conversation, subscribe, and leave a review. Your reviews make a difference in helping us reach more women around the world. And you can connect with me at my website, cynthiajames.net. I have a newsletter, a vibrant private community, and many offerings to support your fullest expression. So now I want to introduce you to my guest today. We haven't known each other long. Her name is Lauren Vriens. Did I say that right, Vriens?
Yes, Vriens.
Vriens. Okay, just want to make sure. She's a strategist. She's an operator and entrepreneur from New York City, whose career has taken her across the Middle East, Canada, and then back home again. She's a Fulbright Fellow, former general manager who scaled startups beyond $50 million. She went on to build Accenture Song's first generative AI product suite used across major enterprises and driving $340 million in deals. Today, she's the co-founder and chief product officer of Premortem, an AI and human-powered system that helps leadership teams see around the corners and de-risk their most important decisions. Laura, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Well, I want to start with how you were born and where you grew up. You know, a lot of people look at successful people, especially entrepreneurs, and think they just sort of came on with this fabulous background and dropped into this area. So where were you born and how did you grow up?
Growing up, I grew up in New York City, but my parents were both immigrants from the Netherlands. And, and I didn't know I wanted to be an entrepreneur until way later in life, actually. So I had a very circuitous journey that took me to where I am today. And I think when I think back at what's my story and why do I work with AI and why do I care so much and care so deeply about the future of the human experience in the next digital era, and a lot of it goes back to my childhood. And so I was always that kid who was stuck in a book, reading and writing. We'd go on road trips and my parents would be like, "Did you see anything?" And I'd be like, "No, I was just reading a book." And it took me until probably my early 20s when I realized that there was something very powerful in language and semantics that was deeply important to me. And so how we shape our experience is communication, is conversation, is podcasts like this, right? And so I was actually in the Middle East on a Fulbright grant and got kicked out of a country because I wrote an article that had an unpopular opinion that was against kind of the ruling family's perception of the world and the conflict that they were in with some of their people. And so my father, who was a journalist, always instilled in me this idea that you have to be cognizant of what side of history you're on and what story you're contributing to. And so what I think is really interesting, what I'd love to talk to you more about is this inflection point we're at today with AI and the workplace and how people feel about it and how they feel their human experience is improving or getting worse because of AI, and how this is kind of my mission now is to kind of bring a counter narrative to that.
Well, I can't wait to talk about that. But I want to go back for a moment because what you did in the Middle East was kind of brave. Do you consider yourself a brave person?
A lot of people in my life call me brave.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're making a statement in a place where there's a culture and leaders that have a different opinion. So I guess I want to say to you, what is it in you that will go to that place to be in integrity with yourself, but also to bring awareness? What is that thing in you?
It's a great question. It almost feels like I don't have a choice, right? So it's so deeply embedded in my being and who I am to speak up. And if I don't, I feel it physically, right? So it's just, I don't know, from a young age, it just felt like if I have something to say, I have to say it. And living in the Middle East to some degree, sometimes you have to fight as a woman to have your voice heard. And frankly, not only in the Middle East, it happens in America too. You have to, if you want to be heard, you have to be vocal and you have to stand up for what you believe in.
Yeah. Okay, so before we get to AI, I need to ask. I mean, you've done some big things. I mean, to support startups beyond 50 million, and then to create first generative AI product suite over 340 million. Okay, first of all, clearly you got a relationship to money.
Tell me more what you mean about that.
Well, a lot of people have ideas. A lot of people have goals and dreams and desires, and they start out and they do all this stuff, and then they hit a wall and they don't make any money, or they don't have an idea of how um, to create a system that can bring in money. So there's something in you that understood how money worked and how it could be brought into business.
Yeah. And this was a lesson I had to learn, right? Because as I mentioned, I wasn't originally an entrepreneur. It took me until much later to figure out that I loved the pace of change and how you're kind of creating something new and novel. And the lesson that I learned is that it's not really about money at all. It's about value. And so your job is, if you want to create financial value, is to figure out what people want. And you can't be stuck on what you think they want. And you can't be stuck on what you want either. Maybe you're lucky and what you want is what other people want, but that's oftentimes a bias that founders have, that entrepreneurs have, that gets them stuck. Is because they're like, well, I want it, so other people must want it. And so you really have to be very good at listening and having empathy and putting yourself in other people's shoes. And that's the secret to creating that financial wealth. It's yeah.
Well, I love
And there was a lot of failures too, by the way. Nobody puts their failures in the bios, but there was a lot of time spent building things nobody wanted. It happens all the time.
Yeah, I hear you, but there's a certain tenacity that goes with successful people. Even when they fall down, they go, okay, what was the lesson here? What do I need to learn? How do I need to grow? That kind of thing. So, when did you get into AI and how did you get into that?
I tend to be someone who likes to try new products, new things, more adventurous type of person. And so I just stumbled upon it like right after it was released. I think probably I read something on Reddit or something like that. And I was like, well, what is this cool thing? And then when I tried it, it felt almost like a simpatico moment, because I love semantic and I love the English language. And I just felt all of a sudden like this is my playground. And so I was out there on the streets like end of November. This is right after it was released, telling strangers like, oh, you haven't tried this yet? You work in technology, like you must be trying it. I got my mom into it. I got everyone I know into it. And yeah, and so it's been quite a journey because if you think about new innovation, we're very much in a moment where it's like the trough of disillusionment now. So people were so excited at the beginning of like this thing that could just surprise you. And sound human and create things that you didn't think it could create. And now we're in this moment where people are like, someone sent me an email written by AI. And so it's been such an interesting journey to see where we've got. And I also think there's a lot of fear of the future and what AI means for our employment, for our sense of worth, for our purpose as humans.
Yeah. So I've had a dual experience with AI. I produced a summit last year, and there was an AI specialist on the summit. And what he talked about was that he felt like we were just at the tip of the iceberg of what was going to unfold in terms of AI. And he understood that people were scared of it, But what he said is it's about your relationship to AI and opening your own consciousness so that you can see the gifts that it offers and how do you bring it into your life. I'm a baby boomer. I can't tell you how many of us are terrified of AI. But for me, it's been this tremendous gift in a lot of different ways. So for you, you brought everybody into this whole awareness, but to create a company that helps leaders and their teams make different decisions based on AI, where did that come from?
I mean, it's always been a deep fascination of mine, which is if you go around and you ask people, uh, do you love your job? And this is something that I ask people a lot when I meet people at events or whatever. I'm like, oh, do you like what you do? Do you know how rare it is that people say yes? It's actually kind of sad. And a lot of it is because, in a way, we're almost overeducated and overintelligent for the work we actually have to do, which is like responding to an email or trying to bring along a team where we've been working on the same thing for 3 months and it's like we keep spinning, and there's a lot of like the situation we're in right now is actually quite dire. We're hitting our cognitive limits. There's just a deluge of content, of information, of complexity, and making forward progress feels almost impossible at times in like the modern enterprise. And I've experienced it. I've worked in large companies. I'm sure lots of your listeners have worked at large companies too. Same thing happens at small companies, maybe even worse, because there's a lot of spin and revision, et cetera. And what I think is so interesting is that we have right now this morbid fascination with like dystopian futures. And I think there's actually a really beautiful opportunity here for us to remove all the noise that we deal with in moving our work forward and actually focus on the things that we love and that make us excited and that are truly embedded in our human creativity and potential. So that's the story that I'm trying to help people see, because otherwise the story that you hear on the mass media and the press and whatever is like worst case scenario. It takes all of our jobs. It keep it, what are we supposed to do with our lives? And we don't have purpose anymore. And so anyway, I think there's another story here, and I think we should embrace it and think about it.
Yeah, I think that's important. When I work with my clients, it's like, I want to know what their passion points are. I want to know what their visions are. I want to know what lights them up and what they want to do to bring those kinds of things to the planet. But I have to tell you, and I'd love to discuss this because there's so much misinformation that people are getting. Algorithms are going crazy and all of this stuff. And so people are like, some of the things that my clients tell me is that I don't know what's true. I don't know what's real. I don't know what I'm supposed to use to further the visions that I have. And so how do people become more conscious and aware of how it can support them as opposed to take them into states of confusion?
Yeah. And this is a topic I think about a lot because the New York Times just did a piece on this where there were certain people, and this has been in the news already a few months back, but there's certain people who would end up in states of complete delusion because of their relationship with ChatGPT. So they felt they were actually in a real relationship or that they were having godlike experiences or whatever. So it was fueling psychosis. I've also seen a trend, and this is completely anecdotal, but people are relying more on ChatGPT for advice on interpersonal relationships. Or even a friend of mine who is a genius, brilliant friend who is relying on ChatGPT for information on lactation. She just had a baby. And I was like, you might want to talk to a human because ChatGPT doesn't work in 3D. only
And
works,
it's not a
it only
person.
works with words. And I mean, think about like when you meet somebody or when you're talking to someone, there's so much more information being exchanged than just words. And we have to remember that ChatGPT is a large language model. Claude, Gemini, all of them. It's all language. And that is a fraction of the human experience. It's a fraction of it. And so, yes, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well,
Yeah, so I just encourage people to
tell
say,
you
like,
that
yeah,
I want to come back to that, but I want to tell you that there's a man whose name is Greg Braden, and he wrote this whole thing about being pure human and the whole concept that there's all this stuff about the machines are important and we should implant all these things in ourselves for whatever. But the fact that I train coaches, I have coaches who have named their chat GBT and have a relationship. I guess, how do we convince people that this is a tool? It is not a real person that is giving you support because they're educated and trained.
yeah, it all gets down to critical thinking skills, right? And so the AI will form its response so that it believes you can interpret it the best. So what you put out, you're getting back. It mirrors you. So if you're a math PhD and you're using highly complex language, it'll mirror that back to you. And if you're not, so you get what you put out. And so I think the best way that I use it to prevent this kind of like circular reasoning or you get stuck in a loop or is that I push it to give me options. So it's not going to give you the right answer, right? Like you can't rely on it for the answer, but you can rely on it to give you a breadth of ideas. So sometimes I ask it to be a kind of like an unreasonable, like grumpy, argumentative person. And I'm just like, tear it apart, tear everything that I've said apart, find all the holes, find all the gaps. And it's exhausting, but then you're like, oh, I found some clarity out of that. And I also encourage people to sometimes use like an incognito chat, right? A fresh chat without history, without memory, and ask it to gut check you, to find the gaps in your reasoning, to question your assumptions, because that's when you truly start to like, I think, evolve your thinking and level up, rather than being like, give me the answer. So use it as a thought partner or a way to kind of question yourself than as like the definitive answer because it doesn't have the full experience or context that you will have.
Right. Okay, so this is a personal question. So clearly you're brilliant. Clearly you're tapped into this field. Is it hard for you sometimes to have conversations with people that are skeptics around all of this?
Skeptics how?
Well, that it's horrible, it's going to take humanity down, we're doomed because of it, it's going to replace us, and you're talking about all these possibilities. I mean, how do you interact with those people? I mean, you said listen, have empathy, but how do you have these conversations when you're so clear about what it is?
I think those conversations are wonderful and I welcome them because it's like I recognize that I am the optimist, right? I'm on the positive side of here and there's a lot of people that are deeply afraid. And so I part of my job is to understand their position and start to like work that into my own understanding of the world because my own worldview is only my worldview. And so I've worked with people who are deeply afraid that AI is going to take their jobs. And I don't feel like it's necessarily my job to sit there and convince them otherwise. Maybe I help them try and understand a different perspective where I think AI will actually create lots of jobs. And I think it's also our choice to determine what we outsource or don't outsource. Ultimately, like we have agency as humanity to make those decisions. As business owners, we have the right to make those decisions or not. And so, yeah, for me, it's everything we're talking about is like perspective seeking, like use AI to perspective seek, talk to humans more than you talk to AI. It's probably a good place to start. But yeah, if anything, I'd like to spread a little bit of optimism because I think our world is quite, we're in a sad moment. I think we're in a hard moment as a society.
Yeah, I have a lot of people in my life, clients and friends that are battling depression and all kinds of other things because they feel helpless. I guess I want to say to you, because you're working with the businesses, what do you tell them about the possibility of them? I loved when it said to see around the corners and de-risk their important decisions. Talk a little bit about that.
So we're living in a world right now where the pace of change is faster than it's ever been before. And enterprises are not designed for that, right? Like in a way, we're designed almost to have inertia. So we do 12-month plans, we have committees, we have groups of people. Things are designed in a way to be less risky, right? Because if things move slow, it's less risky. But then the pace of change outside of companies is going so fast that it's almost become a bigger risk to move that slow. And so when we say look around corners, what we actually mean is rapidly experiment, because you don't really know. Nobody really has the crystal ball or the answer. And if anyone who tells you that they do, they're probably not telling the truth. But the best thing you can do is just to learn as fast as possible. So we help these enterprises with a combination of humans and AI run these really fast experiments. So like, could you learn in 6 weeks whether this commercial initiative has value to the world rather than spending 12 months, 18 months actually building it, but just learning and then deciding with that better information whether you should continue or not continue.
Okay, everybody, if you didn't get all that, rewind and write it down. So, Lauren, okay, I want to know, how do people find you and your fabulous work?
I'd love for people to follow me on LinkedIn. So Lauren Vriens, Vriens, as in Sam. I write a lot of content. I post a lot of videos about this stuff if you want to learn more and try to understand what's happening in the world of business and AI. Yeah, that'd be the best place to find me.
Okay, everybody. I mean, if you got any questions, this will be a person to listen to.
I would welcome them.
Exactly. Well, this show is called Women Awakening, and I asked the same last question. What do you think is the most important thing about Women Awakening at this time?
I think it's really important for women to have a voice and to speak up, because the world that we're in right now is becoming more and more digital. The fact of the matter is that a lot of people building these systems are men, and they're making choices about the world. And so I encourage women who, if you have any interest in technology and AI, is to get involved, so that we can make it more of a fulsome and inclusive system. It's deeply important.
That's beautiful. Well, I'm very grateful that you're on the planet. I'm very grateful that you have decided to walk this path. And actually, I think to be a way shower, pretty obvious to me. Really grateful that you're here and came on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I love that you create this space for women. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Okay, ladies. I hope that this conversation was inspiring, thought-provoking, and a reminder that your voice matters, but also that there's an incredible power that's within you, right? That every one of these interviews is created to awaken your voice and your vision and your unique gifts. I want you to know that I love to support the people in my audience. So if you are needing a little bit of emotional integration in your life, I'd love to be with you. I want you to know that the program, Okay, Ladies, Let's Write a Book, the retreat will happen in May, and you can go to cynthiajames.net and learn about it. So please remember to subscribe and share these episodes with the women in your life and leave a review. It really makes a difference. You can watch full video episodes on YouTube by just searching for Women Awakening with Cynthia James. So until next time, please may you continue to rise and shine and awaken to the fullness of who you are. Your presence on this planet matters. Love you. Talk to you soon.